It may interest you to know that, in the public consciousness of the Valorian Socialist Republic circa 1912, Klaus Holzmann was not a controversial president. Since the revolution had first shifted the nation's form of government 26 years earlier, corruption had become the word of the day. The financial coffers of the VSR were seen as little more than glorified piggy banks for a parade of unscrupulous, light-fingered bureaucrats looking to enrich themselves at the public's expense. As part of an effort to allay this reputation, the government under President Gerlach Rothbart had spent the last several years cultivating a perfect symbol of Valorian integrity. The cruel irony for those very same bureaucrats was that the symbol they chose was Supreme Commander Klaus Holzmann. Holzmann had been at the center of several large propaganda campaigns painting him as the best of everything a Valorian could be under the Republic. As such, he was a well-liked figure among the general populace, seen as a reliable and trustworthy servant of the public interest. Little did the politicians who took advantage of Commander Holzmann as a symbol know they were doing advanced public relations work for the very man that would later make them obsolete.
I have a reservation in the gold room. My 2 associates should already be waiting for me.
One of the few politicians who'd seen the forest for the trees was François Labelle, the much-maligned Minister of Construction and Road Maintenance, who had barely escaped an indefinite stint at the FKA by virtue of his political connections. Holzmann had already almost ruined his life once as a commander. He doubted that the man advancing in rank would settle his temperament.
Gentlemen, I trust you weren't followed.
I'm quite sure that if we were, we'd have already been clapped in irons, old sport.
I doubt anyone of any value finds their way out here.
The out here in question was a dingy function hall in the unremarkable Valorian town of Leipzig, whose only claim to fame in the annals of history would be the very meeting that was about to take place. You may not have heard of Joachim Kurten, who'd been the mayor of Hundekopf since 1901, or Claude Palmier, a member of the nation's treasury who'd attracted embezzlement scandals like a flock of sheep attracts mantelopes. But you've almost definitely heard of the sobriquet they shared with Minister Labelle, the Treasonous Three.
You're being paranoid, Francois.
He didn't send you to prison.
Do you really think any of us are worthy of his notice now?
Don't be complacent. He's got more than enough pretense to put you up against the wall, what with the money that keeps going missing at the treasury.
Oh, shove it, like you've never declared a new carriage on expenses.
Now what's the cause for all of your sudden alarmism? Seen the light again?
Yes, the bright blue light I've heard so much about.
The same blue light you jackals mocked me for ended up killing over 100 of our colleagues. Perhaps my prophecies are worth heeding, if you've got any sense of self-preservation.
You got to admit, he's already a more effective ruler than that windbag Rothbart.
His effectiveness is what frightens me.
He'll fall in line eventually, they all do.
Not Holzmann. He's got principles. You can never trust a man with principles. They're inherently unreasonable.
I had principles once. I sold them for a summer home in Nice. I've been much happier since, you know.
You'll have a hard time enjoying that summer home in a shallow ditch near the Setzenwald. It's only a matter of time until he clears house. Purges anyone who isn't one of his keenest arse-lickers.
Then what do you suggest we do?
We need to take matters into our own hands, Palmier, and hire someone to take care of this.
Minister Labelle spoke truer than he even knew. As February neared its end, President Klaus Holzmann was already working on consolidating all of his most valuable assets securely under his thumb, starting, of course, with Leonid Kulver, who was dragged out of the 6th Reserve Squadron barracks by 2 large and imposing men in the middle of the night and led into the courtyard in his undergarments.
You can't do this to me, you unwashed brutes! Unhand me at once! At least let me put my pants on. Do you have any idea who my mother is?
Mind your aggression, gentlemen. I want any pain inflicted on Master Culver to be carefully planned and rigorously documented.
Commander Holzmann, oh, thank God you're here. There's been a terrible, terrible misunderstanding. These meatheads obviously have me confused with someone else. So if you could just tell them that I'm super important and not who they're looking for, that would be very helpful. I mean, obviously I'm not being arrested because I didn't do anything wrong. Right? Right?
Half right. Which is approximately 50% more than you usually are.
I don't think I follow, sir.
You are indeed important, Leonid. Most fishermen can only dream of having such tantalizing bait on the end of their lines. But I'm going to give you one opportunity to avoid the barbed end of the hook. Tell me where I can find your mother.
Even if I did know, which I don't, she really wouldn't want me telling you.
I'll be sure to offer my apologies personally. Last chance.
Can we maybe discuss this over coffee? I haven't fully woken up yet.
The FKA with him then. I'm far too busy for these games.
I know my rights! I know my rights!
Moments after Leonid, who, as it turned out, did not know his rights, was dragged out of sight, President Holzmann felt the voice of his sister ringing clearly through the neat corridors of his mind.
He is unbearable to listen to, even through your ears.
Enduring the rambling of fools is an occupational hazard. For now, anyway.
I hope you're ready for some more. The police in Hundekopf just arrested your 5 a.m. appointment. Just thought I'd let you know while I prepare for mine.
Wonderful. I'll be there shortly.
The life of a new president is a hectic one, filled with new duties and almost perpetual roadblocks. This chapter in the increasingly fraught history around the Kingmaker diamond concerns the events of a single day, the 27th of February 1912, with a specific focus on the actions of President Klaus Holzmann. If the date seems familiar, it may be because of the associated moniker in Valorian history, Roter Dienstag, or Red Tuesday. With Leonid in a dirigible headed for the country's most secure military prison, save for all the high-profile escapes, Holzmann was making a discreet entrance to the Hundekopf jail to meet a man you'll already be familiar with, a certain figure in local organized crime named Maxim Moretz.
Ah, Mr. President, what a pleasure. I'd shake your hand if mine weren't handcuffed to the table. Okay, the Silent Intimidation Act. If you think that's novel to me, I'll admit I'm a little insulted. All you're doing is wasting both our time.
It may surprise you to hear it, Mr. Moritz, but I admire you.
I can be a hard man to admire.
You're clearly intelligent, driven, resourceful.
How about we just skip the flattery and get to the butt?
I suppose I'm just curious why you turn your talents to a life of crime.
Let's not get all high and mighty, Klaus. You were more than happy to deal with me when I had information of use to you, and I defer to your experience on matters of diplomacy and international law, but sending your brute squad to Switzerland for a little extrajudicial execution seems outside the bounds of legality. Am I right?
In my experience, what's legal is always a few years behind what's right.
That we can agree on. Mind if I smoke?
Not at all.
For every market, a sub-market grows. I know you go in for all that socialist claptrap, but every demand finds its supply. Gambling, booze, narcotics, women. If it wasn't me, it would be someone else, at a lower quality.
I can't say I disagree. Even in the most tightly controlled regime, crime flourishes. Restriction creates demand.
Which bolsters supply. You're learning, boy.
Dam up a stream, and the village floods. All you can do is control the flow, which is precisely what I intend to do.
I'm not sure I understand.
I can't stop you from being a crime boss any more than I can stop a fish swimming or a bird from taking wing. I could kill you, of course, but then there would be a new crime boss, wouldn't there? With new habits, new techniques, new vices. This leaves only one solution. If I can't change you, and killing you would be more trouble than it's worth, then all it leaves is for me to hire you. As a government contractor, my crime boss.
I don't need your money, Klaus.
No, but you need freedom. From those cuffs, from this room, from scrutiny. And that I can provide. Authorities can be ordered from the tip to look away from certain activities in exchange for controlling others.
Like what, pray tell?
The gambling, the women, the usury, distasteful but tolerable. The violence, well, as long as you can direct some of it towards subversives, I see no reason to intervene. But I want the forging of papers and the subversion of immigration laws to cease immediately. I'm to understand you took over Balak's old smuggling routes.
That has been the prevailing rumor, hasn't it?
I want those capillaries cauterized. In exchange, you receive free rein to subdue your competition and mine without persecution.
I'm starting to think I like this new regime.
Correct answer, Mr. Moritz. Glad to do business with you.
And one more question. What did you do with my nephew?
Don't need to worry, Mr. Moritz. He's with Mr. Engels. I'm sure they're getting along famously.
Your uncle tells me you're a mentalist.
My uncle wouldn't tell you jack.
People don't need to speak to tell me things. You know, someone your age shouldn't be using that kind of language, not even in your head.
You're weird.
Your stuffed rabbit is named Lucky. That's very sweet. Did you take him to Providence College with you?
Oh, shut the hell up and stay out of my head!
I'm just making small talk, Theodore. You know, it's a shame to see a young man of your talents wasted in those dusty old halls. The colleges are overrated, you know. So wrapped up in their outdated dogma. The greatest mentalist I ever knew was self-taught.
He probably wasn't that great if nobody's ever heard of him.
Oh, Theodore. Some of the most powerful people in history chose to work in the shadows. They went without fame, they went without riches. And that's because they knew the most important thing.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
The power is its own reward. You like hurting people.
You're damn right I do, lady.
How would you like to help me do it every day?
Having struck a bargain with the most dangerous criminal in the country and his concerningly sadistic nephew would be enough of an achievement to call it a day with most burgeoning autocrats. But in all things, Klaus Holzmann had always been an overachiever. By 8:15 a.m., he was at the bedside of Ferdinand Kruger in the medical wing of Circle 3. Since the incident that had unfolded in Switzerland the previous September, he'd been undergoing a grueling 4 months of recovery. It just so happened that today was the day the VSR's best military fleshcrafters deemed him fit for release.
Corporal Kruger. So wonderful to see you again.
President Holzmann, to what do I owe the honor of your company?
Your fine and irreplaceable skills. You seem to have recovered nicely.
As best I can, President Holzmann. Some days I feel more scarred tissue than man.
An unscarred body is a soldier's shame, Corporal. You're in a far better state than the man with whom you departed for Switzerland. Take some comfort in that.
I often do, sir.
Good. There's not a great deal of comfort going around these days. You'll be ashamed to see it squandered. Much like your talents.
I live to serve you, sir.
And serve you shall. It's how you atone for failing me once before.
To have failed you is my life's greatest regret, sir.
Quite. You know, it pained me to sign your death certificate this morning.
I beg your pardon, sir?
From what I read, your recovery was extremely promising. However, there were complications late into the treatment process. Your condition worsened, and I report with great sorrow, you didn't pull through. Your family has already been informed of your passing.
I'm not sure I understand, sir.
From this point onwards, Corporal, you begin your service to me as a dead man. A black operative, untraceable to my wishes. After this meeting, my face-smith will alter your appearance, and you will go forth as a different person. A person with no name and an unforgiving aim. A ghost who kills in deathless service of the VSR.
What would you have this dead man do, sir?
I have a list of names. Politicians, journalists, subversives, enemies of our glorious future. See to it that no one on this list draws breath, and I will consider your debt to me repaid with interest. Who's to say? Perhaps I'll even give you your face back, and a shiny new rank to go with it.
Consider it done, sir.
Oh, I do, Corporal. I very much do. Have the last one down before midnight.
By midnight, sir? Are you sure?
I wouldn't ask you to do anything I couldn't do myself.
Thank you, sir. If it's not too much to ask, I'd like to request one thing in return.
You may.
I know that you're still looking for the Colette guys and her companions. When you bring them in, whatever you do with the other two, save Telesphore Vintilage for me. I want him to pay dearly for what he did.
Consider it done.
Whether as Supreme Commander or Head of State, Klaus Holzmann was infamous for setting demanding targets. But to his credit, he had equal talent for selecting personnel who could live up to his crushing expectations. One man very eager to get in the president's good graces was Maxim Moretz, whose new position as the head of a de facto underworld secret police appeared to be a great boon. While Holzmann prepared for a planned meeting with Germany's ambassador to the VSR, Ulrich Seefelt, and a public speech on his vision for the country's economic future, Moretz was busy getting his hands dirty on the president's behalf. And Moretz's Holzmannization of the Valorian underworld began at the doorstep of Holst's photography and camera repair, the legitimate front business of an expert forger best known as Leipzig Paul.
We're closed, friend. You can take your cameras elsewhere.
No cameras here, friend.
Oh, Mr. Moretz. 1,000 apologies. I didn't see you and your, associates walk in.
You'll be luckier if you see us leave. Awfully drab little shop you've got here, Paul. Clearly, your talents for artifice don't extend to interior design. Boys, remodel the place.
You bastards! My shop! What the hell are you?
Not another step, Paul. I'm already doing you the kindness of redecorating. Don't force me to paint the walls, too.
I don't understand. Did I do you wrong, Max? I've always offered you my services for free, out of respect.
And it's out of respect that I don't burn you along with your store. The forgery business just dried up in this town. Official papers only. I suggest you take one of your fake passports and use it to relocate to France or Germany. Your talents will be of better use there. Sorry to do this to you, Paul. President's orders.
This was only the beginning. After Leipzig Paul was run out of Hunderkopf, a number of small presses and newsagents publishing or selling literature critical of Holzmann's rise to power were mysteriously firebombed. Small groups of public demonstrators also soon found themselves intimidated out of assembling by large, menacing figures standing around and holding shotguns nearby. The message was becoming clear. Under Holzmann, you didn't just have soldiers and the police to worry about. He even had criminals towing the line. But while Moretz and his leg breakers were dishing out punitive violence in the dark streets across Hundekopf, President Holzmann returned to Crystal City with his entourage. Ambassador Seefelt was already waiting for him in Crystal Castle by the time he arrived.
I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, Ambassador. The first days of any new administration are always the most frantic.
President Holzmann, congratulations on your ascendancy. The Kaiser sends his best.
And I hope you'll send him my sincere thanks. A smooth transition of power wouldn't have been possible without the German Empire in my corner.
The Kaiser is sure his investment will be rewarded. When Admiral von Tirpitz spread the news of your developments in weapons technology, His Majesty became rather excited.
Oh, I'm touched. You're welcome to tell the Kaiser that, all going well, we'll be moving on to the next stage of testing this very evening. I'm optimistic that full battlefield deployment will be possible within 18 months, if the proper raw materials can be readily gathered.
The sooner the better. We have full confidence in you, of course, but as the diplomatic situation with France and our cousins across the Channel continues to deteriorate...
The man with the ace up his sleeve will be going home with the whole pot.
Precisely. I'm glad you see it our way.
When victory is ours, we'll write the most wonderful history together. Now, Ambassador, if you'll excuse me, I have a speech to make.
And an incredibly eventful speech it would be. President Holzmann took to the balcony outside the castle to a roaring crowd of supporters and journalists ready to make a prepared speech about his government's plans to bolster domestic manufacturing and agriculture. To anyone outside the VSR, it would seem to be a rather dry affair.
No longer will the Valorian Socialist Republic be seen as the economic sick man of Europe. Through fostering economic independence and becoming a powerhouse of continental exports, we will leverage our unique qualities as a nation to move ourselves as a collective forward.
The discussion of economic policy took a back seat as a rogue ice mage stepped out of the crowd and fired a large icicle through Holzmann's chest.
Anarchy forever!
Naturally, the mage was soon tackled and subdued by the presidential guard as Holzmann was surrounded by staffers and dragged back into the palace for emergency medical attention. Luckily for him, the icicle had missed its target, the president's heart, and instead pierced his lung. One thing was clear even then. This was a premeditated attack to some degree. Had the assailant used a conventional weapon, Holzmann's skills in artifice would have easily subverted it. Using a nature mage was a clear attempt to counteract his greatest natural defense. Speaking of assassination, while an attempt on the president's life was naturally the most headline-grabbing contemporary news, it isn't the failed attempt to kill Klaus Holzmann that gave Red Tuesday its bloody moniker. That would actually be due to a series of focused attacks against some of Holzmann's political enemies by the now officially dead Ferdinand Kruger. Many lost their lives in a violent fashion that day, and I've done all I can to reconstruct the full list here. Sophia Weber, owner of the Valorian Independent Press, a small independent newspaper critical of the government, was found dead after an apparent accident where she had seemingly fallen headfirst into her own printing press and was crushed. Corporal Kruger helped her find her way. Lieutenant Ewer Becker, a Rothbart loyalist whom Holzmann had earlier discharged from the Valorian military, was deemed to be a dangerous subversive who might later stage a coup. Any fears of this were snuffed out when Kruger gained entrance to his home mid-morning and shot him to death with a service pistol. The political writer Honoré Rubini had been consistently critical of Commander Holzmann's military actions and was primed to be just as uncharitable to him as president. Kruger cornered him while smoking in an alley outside his favorite restaurant, the Gilded Swan, and stabbed him to death with a bayonet.
Herr Rubini! Stay still.
He would be pronounced dead at St. Mary's Hospital an hour later. The former Minister of International Relations, Adolf Junkers, who was bullish on improving diplomatic ties with the British Empire, would never live to see that dream realized, when he and several other innocent bystanders were killed by a car bomb wired underneath his automobile. a high-ranking member of the Silver Claw Society anarchist group, Ludvig Moulin, was assassinated in his home with a sniper's bullet through the bedroom window, a shot only one man in the Republic could make.
15 degrees north, accounting for gravity. Add 2 degrees to adjust for wind resistance and... Got you.
The political strategist André Baptiste took a fatal fall from the top of the Crystal City clock tower. Prominent theatrical actor Manfred Wichmann, who performed a satirical play critical of the Valorian military, was shot 9 times outside the Liberty Hippodrome. Respected economist Volker Seal, who was highly critical of President Holzmann's tariff platform, found himself feeling the pinch when Kruger entered his office and wrapped a piano wire garrote around his throat. A former head guard at Crystal Castle, Stefan Rung, whose knowledge of the inner workings of the castle was deemed a security risk by Holzmann's administration, he perished when his flat was set on fire and he was unable to escape the blaze. Party loyalist Thierry Cotres, who'd previously floated the idea of starting a splinter party, found his evening glass of red wine to contain more cyanide than he'd first expected. And, of course, there was former President Gerlach Rothbart, his wife Hilda, and their personal driver Thomas. While traveling on a scenic background, they found the tires of their car dashed on broken glass that someone had oh so carelessly left there. When Thomas exited the vehicle to check the tires, he quickly found a sniper's bullet lodged inside his skull.
Darling, what's happening?
We need to run, Hilda.
I wouldn't advise that, Herr Rothbart. I'm a very good shot.
Gerlach, I'm scared.
Just stay calm, please. We're more valuable alive than dead. If you want money, we can give it to you. Lots of it. I'm a very important man.
That's all men like you ever care about, isn't it? Money. Your greed has poisoned the dreams of this nation. You choked us, throttled our hopes. But President Holzmann has allowed us to dream once more.
Holzmann? That treacherous swine! Why, I'll...
Die.
While one assassin was having an exceptional day, another would-be assassin was having the worst day of his life. Albert Pinteric was, by all accounts, an apolitical man. A Croatian national who'd moved to the VSR in his teenage years to study at Sagittarius University with a focus on cryomancy, the magical manipulation of ice in all its forms. Despite expressing an anarchist sentiment in his attempted assassination of President Holzmann, no connections were ever found between him and any of the major anarchist groups. It wasn't difficult to draw the conclusion that Pinteric was a gun for hire. The only question that remained was who exactly had hired him. That was a question that the Minister of Information's new apprentice, Dieter Fellman, was tasked with wringing out an answer for.
Their names are...
Labelle, Kurten, and Palmier. Ministers, of course.
I wanted to tell you that. What gives?
Force of habit. Excellent work, Dieter. You'll make a fine inquisitor someday.
Thank you, Miss Ingalls. So what am I supposed to do now?
We've gotten what we need from him. Feel free to use him for extra practice until his mind unravels completely.
Nice.
And I need to tell President Holzmann the good news.
During all this, Klaus Holzmann was interred at the private medical clinic inside Crystal Castle, being attended to by Father Gabriel Rettig. One of the few things he didn't plan today was his own assassination attempt. That, to Holzmann's thinking, was merely a happy accident. He couldn't have created a better pretense for sweeping his own violent political purge under the rug if he tried, but the purging wasn't quite done yet.
How are you holding up, brother of mine?
To functioning standards.
I have a get-well-soon present for you.
I have been hoping to get some new cufflinks.
How about the 3 little maggots who ordered your death?
Yes, that will do nicely as a substitute.
While Holzmann rallied from his injuries, the treasonous 3, Francois Labelle, Joachim Kurten, and Claude Palmier, reconvened in their Lachtigberg function hall to discuss their next steps.
You complete fucking idiot, Labelle!
How could I have known that he'd miss?
If we weren't on Holtzmann's shit list before, we certainly are now.
Only if he can connect it to
Of course
us.
he can connect it to us. Do you have any idea the kind of mentalists they have access to?
Then what the hell do we do now? Flee the country? We're talking about treason here. That's grounds for execution.
How many rooms do you have in that French villa, Kurten? We could all change our names and lay low until the next regime begins.
Holtzmann's young. It could be 40 years until he retires.
From your mouth to God's ears, Labelle. Is that how that old expression goes?
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Holtzmann, this is impossible.
You all look like you've seen a ghost. And perhaps you would be seeing a ghost right now if you'd hired a more competent assassin.
It was Labelle and Palmier.
Kurten
They
and
manipulated me.
You disloyal mongrels.
You're all under arrest for the unsuccessful attempt on my life and the regrettably successful assassination of former President Gareth Rothbart.
Rothbart's dead?
Certainly has been an eventful day, hasn't it? There's a contingent of 50 soldiers outside. I wanted to come in and spare you the indignity of attempting escape.
Oh, God! You're going to take us back to the FKA!
No, Labelle, I have no interest in ferreting away the people's money to house and feed any of you. You and your co-conspirators are going to serve a far more constructive purpose.
The treasonous 3 were disappeared into a military vehicle in the dead of night and taken to the Circle 3 military testing facility, the epicenter of many of Holtzmann's more delicate projects.
Keep the pace, gentlemen. History doesn't tolerate dawdlers.
Be reasonable, man.
Reasonable? Like the icicle your inept crony tried to put through my heart earlier today?
We were desperate, foolish and desperate. It was nothing personal.
And neither is this, I can assure you. You're just one of many fires I put out today. You think the whole damn country was ablaze.
We could be more valuable to you alive than dead, Holtzmann. We can give you names of other subversives in parliaments. We can give you a whole list.
A list that would be incomplete without your treacherous names at the very top. Through here, please. Do you know what I love about technology, gentlemen? It's immune to self-interest. You can bribe a man, but not a weapon. A bomb can't be corrupted. And last I checked, a bayonet has never gotten cold feet. These tools are designed to perfectly fulfill their intended purpose, and under a steady hand, they never deviate. Perhaps someday we'll live in a perfect utopia, populated by automatons under the command of a perfectly logical machine mind.
You sound like you've lost your mind, Klaus.
That's often been said to visionaries, Francois, always by small and unimaginative men. Almost there now.
Playing the damn piano at a time like this?
He really is off his rocker.
Theatrical, I know, but the military can't be entirely devoid of pageantry. This way, gentlemen. Welcome to Research and Development.
What on earth is this, Holtzmann?
The future.
In the deepest inner sanctum of Circle 3, Holzmann produced an attaché case from a secure vault. He loosened the clasps and opened the case, revealing a collection of shiny components, decorated with arcane symbols that glowed with the distinctive green of high-level artifice. With a flick of Holzmann's wrist, the parts began to assemble themselves into one.
The problem with guns up to this point has always been how fickle they are when put up against magic. A skilled marksman at long range can take out a fleshcrafter as long as they have the element of surprise, but at close range, on equal footing, it's anyone's guess how that fight ends. For centuries we've made do with wards and counter-charms, but having to enchant every gun is utterly inefficient, and when it comes to adept fleshcrafters, there's nothing you can do to stop them from healing themselves if the first shot doesn't pierce the heart or the brain. The solution? It's simple. Sheer bombardment. Imagine, if you will, a gun the size of a rifle that fires like a full-sized Gatling gun. A gun that allows you to take out multiple targets with a single trigger pull. A gun that reloads so quickly that while your opponent is busy casting a spell to block your first shot, you've already taken a second, and a third, and a fourth. Impossible? Far from it. This is just one of many exciting new developments I've been working on for the Germans.
A rifle?
The rifle. 6 rotating barrels made of steel, treated with extract of ice flour to minimize overheating, 6,000 rounds per minute, with spatial compression sigils engraved onto the magazine so it can hold near infinite ammunition. This prototype still requires gunpowder, unfortunately, but the final product will be powered by Kersite crystal, which is odorless, smokeless, and never needs to be replenished. I call it the Witch Killer. Would you like to see a demonstration?
Holtzmann, no! Wait!
Please!
Thank you, gentlemen, for becoming part of history.
The Kingmaker Histories is a production of We Are Not Alive. This episode was written by Henry Galley and audio engineered by Meg Molloy Tuten, with executive production by Henry Galley and Ashley Craft. Our theme was written and performed by Professor Shy Guy. The Valorian National Anthem was written and performed by June Eisenhart. A full list of other music used can be found in the show notes, as can our social media links. This episode featured, in order of appearance, David Ault as the historian, Zane Schact as Labelle, Leonid, and Leipzig Paul, Henry Galley as Palmier, Matt Baker as Kurten, Bradley Gareth as Holzmann, Liz Morey as Margot, Graham Rowett as Moretz, Zuwie Lefou as Dita, Maxadrian Burton as Kruger, Lou Sutcliffe as Seefelt, and Josh Rubino as Rothbart, with additional voices by Henry Galley and Meg Molloy Tuten. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/KingmakerCast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.